Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. Tonight we will be taking a trip in the Wayback Machine to 1998. As voted on by the patrons, we will be reviewing Robert Rodriguez's The Faculty. Also, a thing I learned this week, Schnars, Robert Rodriguez directed The Faculty.
I actually didn't know either until I watched the trailer for the movie.
I didn't know until the end credits came up, so imagine how blown mine was. It was insane.
You should have been able to guess by that point.
If you guys read the trivia on IMDb, he didn't know about it until 5 years after.
Fun fact.
Hey!
Fun fact.
That's the first.
I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, coming to you from New York City. New York City. Please welcome
New York City.
John Schnars.
Hello, Eric.
Do people just say that when you buy salsa in the city?
Yeah, they do.
I always wonder if anyone gets that reference.
I don't care.
It's
rope.
what was it? Old El Paso? Is that
Yeah,
the brand?
I know that you get it, Joe, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
Next up on the show, coming to you from the Midwest, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
Next up, from Chicago, the land of meats. He drinks beer. His name is Joe.
All these things are true.
Meats.
Also the Midwest.
And last up tonight, please welcome the High Priestess of Books at Bloody Good Horror, Cece, to the show.
And ceiling.
Hello. And ceiling
The High
fans.
Priestess of Stealing Fans.
Yep. It's new. It's newly acquired.
Yeah. Very good. Well, as I said, we're here tonight to talk about The Faculty. Schnars, I was brainstorming with Schnars about ways we could have patrons vote on movies just to get them more involved and also help kind of take the pressure off of us a little bit to make the decision. And Schnars said, what if we took 5 movies from 1998 and had people vote on them? And then
It worked out.
And then I forgot to check the thing that lets people only vote once on the patron poll. So then it was allowed to be juiced.
Well, you could vote for more than one thing. You couldn't vote more than once.
Right.
Which I think is fun.
Oh, okay. So you couldn't vote for the same movie.
No.
So you could just cancel out your own vote like an idiot?
Yeah, well, you could vote for like 3 movies. Yeah.
Why?
I mean,
Why
yes.
would you do that?
I don't know. Psycho still got 0 votes. So-
Psycho the remake.
Yeah, the remake, obviously. The other 1998 Psycho.
What were you doing in 1998, Schnars?
16 years old. I think I was in sophomore year of high school. I was like the Oliver, kind of like the world beater that just vanquished all the enemies and
Oliver.
or wait, Casey, not
never.
Oliver. I don't know where Oliver came from.
Are we the same age, Schnars? I think 1998.
I'll be 82. I think so.
I guess, yeah. So maybe I was a sophomore. What about you, Joe? You were in college?
I was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in college. I had recently bed my first woman.
Oh,
my God.
go you, Joe.
This movie?
Yeah. It was an exciting time in Joe's
So-
life.
A lot happening. I can't think of a thing to say there about your virginity. Had you seen The Faculty?
No, as I mentioned, I had recently bed a lady. So I
horror
was putting
movies.
most of my effort into doing that again.
That's fair. I guess that makes sense. That logic follows. Cece, what kind of dark witchy magic were you up to in 1998?
Well, let's see. I was 11, so I was, just trying to be cool.
Oh man.
Please elaborate.
How big was your bugskin collection?
I mean, by 11, I think I had 2, those, those Costco-sized jars of pickles. That was almost full, so that's pretty impressive.
True? Is that true? Is that real? Please let that be real.
Yes, that's true. So, you know.
Nice.
I don't really.
And
Have a-
where are those jars now? Like, at what point did you say, like, all right, these have got to go?
No, remember I thought I had told that story that I broke the giant jar and I like almost cut my thumb off because I was carrying them up the stairs and my brother and I were fighting over the jar of skins and I smashed it on the stairs.
Oh.
Why were these skin jars taken throughout the house?
So I was taking it to my room.
Yeah, but where were they previously?
Oh, we were outside. We had been collecting them and we were trying to take them upstairs, you know, and I dropped them.
My,
How bad did that jar smell when it broke?
Oh, I mean, they don't smell bad, and you don't like. I mean, I didn't keep it like sealed up in there to keep the like. You know, you gotta air that
They're
thing out.
chitin, it's not fleshy.
Yeah.
I'm
like
not sure that I would like immediately think to air them out. I think if I had a bunch of bug skins in a collection, I would super glue that thing shut and never open it.
Well, not if you're adding to it. You got to keep it open to add more.
Like, what if they came back to life in the middle of the night and you let them get out?
That's all. That means their spell worked. So
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why I just assumed you had these on like display in your room, and not that you were like carrying them around the house like a pet.
If I still had them, then yes, they would be on display.
Joe, how was she going to read to them if she didn't carry them into the living room with her?
But,
And
yeah.
at any point in your life, did your parents yell at you that no skins at the table while we're eating?
No, I never took them to the table. I was at least polite about that.
She's a Southern lady, Joe.
Yeah. I have a little bit of manners.
You reminded me when you were talking about Costco pickles, but my wife and I bought a legit glass drum of pickles from Costco once, and we were carrying it up the stairs in our old apartment, and it's like 4 flights, and we got like 2 or 3 flights up. My bag broke. It hit the stairs, and they were stairs with space between them, so you could like stuff could fall. You know what I mean? There was no like stair back, so it hit, and it went ding, 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 ding down to the first landing, then rolled in reverse and fell down like 2 flights into the basement floor, and like shattered in a million pieces. All that pickles and pickle juice just like everywhere, and immediately from like 20 feet up, I could smell it immediately.
I'm sure those basement neighbors were so happy to have that
my
outside their
God.
door.
Thank the Lord, like we cleaned it up before anybody saw us, but it
Wow.
stank so bad. Like anybody who walked through that room thought a pickle murder had just happened or something.
Good on you, because I guarantee Leslie and I would have just been like, well, that's where those stay now.
Well, no, it was so much. The problem was it was so much glass. There's no way I was gonna leave it. It was like so dangerous. We ended up like bringing our vacuum all the way down to the bottom floor to like try to get up the last little piece. It was a shit show, man. Why Costco? Why do you put pickles in giant glass jars? Who wants that? It's not the 1950s anymore, you know?
no joke. My dad worked at a pickle factory, so I smelled that constantly.
I mean, pickles are amazing though. Like that's not that bad.
Future BGH classic. No joke. My father worked at a pickle factory. Cool. Pickles. So there you go.
I need Casey's 1998 story.
Yeah.
I assume he had a full-on child potentially.
No,
No.
close.
Ah.
Let's see. 1998. Cece was 11. John and Eric were sophomores in high school, and Joe was in college. By 1998, when this came out, I'd been married for a year, moved to Indianapolis, and worked my first job down here at a hospital. And it was probably like 6 months before I started my current job.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Here's a better
No
question.
shit.
What were you wearing in 1998? What was your style?
Probably a polo shirt and khakis.
Okay.
Mm.
Did you wear your hair like Josh Hartnett's in this movie?
Yeah.
No, I actually had more hair than those, so that was
So,
nice.
in other words, polo shirt, khakis, and like long bangs, and then weird spiky back of the head thing that's like
Yeah.
inexplicable.
Some
I was
weird
still
bed head.
on to my grunge days then, so I had like a weird scraggly beard and like probably some big hair, but
Joe, what about you? What were you rocking in 98?
I don't know, but whatever it was on the floor because I had recently bed a lady.
So impressed for this year. Like that's such a great year for you.
I've got to imagine it was like gigantic cargo shorts and like some sort of ridiculous, stupid T-shirt.
Cargo shorts.
But did you wear a button-up shirt on top of it and just wore it unbuttoned?
Never. I never got into that because I had to do my own laundry and I was not gonna layer anything.
I was definitely. Oh, I did my own laundry too. I was definitely wearing carpenter's jeans, like with the thing for the hammer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, that was
Oh, yeah.
that was hip. That was
Okay,
you know,
I'm just telling what I was.
everybody's
I'm just telling
wearing
what I was wearing, Schnars. I
Good news, Eric. Those still are acceptable when you hit like 40 and are a dad.
and need to
Not
carry
really.
a hammer.
Not really. That was pre-beeper. I didn't have any type of like digital communications. I definitely wore like gazelles. Do you remember gazelles? They were like Adidas soccer shoes.
No.
And probably like a short sleeve button up shirt. I don't know. That's not that exciting. CC, anything with buckles on it?
Oh, no, I don't think I started, my buckle
Complicated.
phase until I don't think I started all that. I was still playing softball pretty heavily in, 98. So.
Do you want to guess
Although-
what? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, although I did win the World Series for USSSA when I was 11 in 98. So.
The World Series of what?
Softball.
Wow.
Ah.
Go
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah.
So proud of you.
Do you want to
Oh.
guess what the number one song from 1998 was?
Oh shit, this is good. Can I get a hint?
I don't think you're ever gonna guess it. What would be a good hint?
Savage Garden.
No,
Oh God, they were so good.
it was more on the R&B side.
All free.
R. Kelly?
No diggity.
Closer.
Tony?
No,
Closer,
that-
but no.
No, but that was definitely what Joe was listening to when he betted his first
When
lady.
Yeah.
When you
that
bet a
is-
lady.
Yeah.
This song, this may have, baby, when we're grinding, I get so excited.
Oh man.
Too close by Next.
Oh my
Such a good
lord.
song,
Oh, that
too.
was
That
a
was
jam.
number one.
Try, but I can't find it.
Lots.
We're real close.
Teenagers across the country dry humping to that song in 1998.
Also on Joe's running mix, so Eric has probably heard it lately.
Nice.
Savage Garden was actually number 4. Truly, madly, deeply.
Yeah,
Wow.
I figured that was
That
98.
blows my mind.
So yeah,
Yep.
we're back in 1998, guys. I'd love to know what you were doing in 1998 if it was interesting. I think we might go back to 98 too, since we're, why not? Because I think we had a list of a good like 10 movies that I thought we could do interesting shows on. So,
Oh yeah, there's some wacky stuff.
and
There's
I thought
some
it'd be,
definitely wacky stuff.
I thought it'd be fun too to just randomly go back to other years. Like we could go to 88 or honestly any random year, but I kind of like the 20-year symmetry.
Yeah. That is
Definitely
nice.
a number 20.
So there you go.
Do you guys want to play a quick game and guess which of the child actors in this was the oldest? Which high school
Shit, that's
student
good.
was the oldest?
Oh, I'm
Actually, I
John
looked
Stewart.
at this earlier. It was
Wait.
Stan.
I was gonna say Sean Hathaway or whoever.
yeah, Sean Hatosi.
Hatosi. That
I
yeah.
love that.
yeah.
Which one is that? The football guy?
Yeah, the football guy.
He would have been 23, and then Clea Duvall
God.
was 21.
He had the teeth of a 40-year-old horse.
He really, there's a lot of people in this movie that I just feel like would not be actors nowadays.
No,
I mean,
they,
Sean
the funny thing is
Hathaway
they-
is still an actor.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all acting still.
That's,
How
he
did
got his teeth dealt with, and he's had really
he got
he grew into his teeth over the years?
he got grandfathered in.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that
Gums
dude's
caught
year
up with the rest of his
younger
face.
than I am.
How about Daniel Masterson was actually
I
the second
know.
oldest.
And,
now that I think
Yeah, so we can get to all that fun actor stuff really quickly. I just want to talk about the Suspiria trailer.
yep.
Thoughts, John?
Super good.
It looked interesting.
Yeah.
I'm way into it.
Yeah, it looks great.
Quite the
I was very
cast.
excited about it. If nothing else, it really made me want to go back and watch the original too, because while I've seen the original, it's been a really long time. So I think it would, from what I remember that for original movie, this seems like it's done a remake done well enough that I kind of want to have that fresh in my mind to see how they did.
Well,
with
and it
to
also
measure up.
really seems like it's striking its own kind of visual tone, which I like. It's not necessarily just aping all that Argento stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I think it's going to be 50 times better than the original.
Yeah, like
I
that's the
do
secret.
not
Is like
think the
I don't.
original's great.
Yeah, like I think the original is visually really stunning, but I've never been like a huge fan. I've
Yeah.
said this a lot before, but and I'm actually in the minority in this, but I always preferred Inferno because there's like a little more of a kernel to kind of hang your hat on in that movie.
Yeah, like I like the original. Like to your point, I think it's an interesting movie to watch, but it's certainly not sort of like
Then of
that
course,
compelling.
Mother of Tears is like unwatchable garbage. It's funny we were talking about it's funny we were talking about like 20 years because it occurred to me as I'm watching the Suspiria trailer, like I don't think Argento's made a watchable movie in 20 years.
Oh, I mean,
Oh no.
Shots
I don't think
fired.
so.
I mean, maybe the
Um,
Stenhall syndrome, was that post or was that early? Was that mid 90s? I don't even know.
yeah.
But there you go.
Now you're pushing my boundaries.
So I think we're
No,
all
so
pretty interested.
yeah, I mean, I'm curious if anyone's seen this, but this is the same director as this movie, Call Me by Your Name, which was just a Best Picture nominee this year, which I didn't realize. I mean, I saw the director's name. I'm like, oh, I'll have to look him up. I don't know that dude. He's an Italian director. So yeah, he's gonna bring a different sensibility to it for sure.
Yeah, he has not. My judgment, based on what I'm looking at IMDb, he has not made a watchable movie since 1998.
Well, you're talking about Argento, not
yeah, sorry,
Luca
sorry, yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So,
Mm.
yeah,
But
good
no,
times.
well,
It's gonna be a lot of
but I
fun.
think it's super interesting that it's an Italian director. Like I like that I like that kind of approach to it.
Are you prepared to be just friggin' terrified by Tilda Swinton kind of just
Yeah.
standing still? And
So
I don't
Weird.
know. I mean, I think she's pretty creepy, so I can.
that's what I'm saying.
Oh my
I'm
God,
looking forward to it.
100%.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, how bad could it be if it's got Tilda Swinton being evil?
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course. And next week, John, it's time for us to go see Hereditary.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be good.
We also haven't like been in the theater in a hot minute.
Yeah, I mean we've avoided some stuff.
Yeah.
We will have to make a decision. We had it penciled in. Jurassic Park: Fallen Kingdom is, I believe, 2 weeks after the 21st.
Hmm.
So well, we can debate that off air, I guess. But
Yeah.
Mm.
And heard some good things about that movie that came out this weekend, the Lee Winnell thing that we
upgrade.
upgrade. Yeah, we're gonna pick that up on video.
Yeah, he didn't try to pick up any underage chicks in the movie, so that was
Oh, cool. Well, that's
you know,
good.
progress.
Oh,
So,
Just at the premiere.
oh,
I kid.
cute.
All right, Joe.
What's up, G?
What are we drinking tonight?
Beer guts.
Oh boy, we're drinking. First, before I get into the beer for this week, I need to send a big thank you and shout out to Elisa, whose name I'm probably mispronouncing, and I realized I didn't think to actually ask to make sure I was saying it right. But for listeners of the show, if you remember back, I think it was like our year end. I was talking about 21st Amendment Brewing, and she actually works for them and then partners up, or she can probably explain better, but pretty much she represents here in Chicago 21st Amendment, Brooklyn Brewery, and Funkworks, and was nice enough to meet up with me last week and give me like just a ton of swag, some really great beers, one of which she actually created the recipe for, which I had over the weekend. It was super good. So I can't thank her enough. It was super awesome that she did that for us. So those of you, if you are interested in the 10-year t-shirts that John has yet to post on the site, if you do want one, the way to do it is to fly to Chicago and bring me stuff, and that's how you'll
it's
get
that
it.
easy. It's that easy, people. I don't
It's
understand
fun
why.
too.
Yeah.
But again, thank you. It was so awesome that she did that. Super nice. But this week we're talking about The Faculty, a fun little ditty about a group of teachers and high school students that get body snatched, if you will, and hilarity ensues. So because of that, I picked a beer from the good folks out at Ballast Point Brewing. They're out in San Diego, and this beer is their Dead Ringer.
Hmm.
Yep. So this one is their Marzen beer, or what they usually create a little later from now in the fall months, around like September or so. But here in Chicago, it's like 50 out every day still, so it fits with us. It's so Marzen, it's the style of beer that they usually create around Oktoberfest. So a little bit on the darker side. It's a lager, so it's not super heavy, but has like a lot of like sweetness and caramel toffee notes to it. Really good to drink on like a cooler night, and I really enjoy this type of beer. Only comes in about 6% alcohol, so not super high. The whole idea is you just get hammered on these and drink like 40 or 50 of them while dancing around the maypole or whatever. And Ballast Point, if you guys haven't heard of them, they're pretty well distributed throughout the U.S. and other countries, I think, even at this point. So you can probably find this one in your neck of the woods. Their Sculpin is one of like the bigger IPAs. Ballastpoint.com is their website, and there you go.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
We just got Ballast Point in Indy like in the last year, and it's a happy moment for me.
Yeah, it's kind of, they got bought out by InBev a while ago, so I'm not like a huge supporter of them. But since they have gotten bought out, they're distributing further and further. So you'll find this one even on tap at your local TGI Fridays probably at this point.
Joe, breaking beer news here. I don't know if you saw this. Are you familiar with the Trillium Brewing Company?
No, not off the top of my head. No.
Oh, okay. They're based out of Massachusetts. They have 2 locations.
Mhm.
They're pretty popular around here. It's like one of those places where people line up to get their stuff, when it's released.
Yeah.
Some dude at their plant today, some contractor, was horribly burned over 70% of his body.
Dear Lord.
They said they heard him screaming and running away from some kind of vat, like trying to rip his clothes off. Like something must have opened up and sprayed him or like something.
Oh, that
You're really
sucks.
bringing down this segment, Eric.
I don't know
jeez.
what part of the beer process uses that much heat. Like, I guess I'm not familiar with the
You got to
process.
boil it all.
Yeah, when you're boiling the wort, like the temperatures get up super high, so that's I got to imagine that's
That's one of the earlier steps too, isn't it?
I mean, that's pretty much when you're just starting to make the beer. Yeah.
Crazy town. So there you go. Good times.
Hey Joe, look what I got. Can you
You
read
got your
that?
zombie dust there. There you
You
go.
betcha.
All right, guys.
How would you? You got Pliny the Elder lately, right? How would you compare those two?
I really like Pliny the Elder a lot. It was very smooth. I think Zombie Dust has a little more flavor, so I think I like it better. It's got a little bit more of a citrus flavor,
Yeah, I'd agree.
whereas Pliny is like a neutral flavor. It's very good and it's very smooth, but I think Zombie Dust edges it out.
Yeah, I'm a big zombie dust fan.
Who doesn't love zombie dust?
Hmm.
All right, guys. It's time to take a trip back to 1998 as we review The Faculty.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Up the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. John Schnars,
Yes, Eric.
Duke. I've been thinking about you a lot lately, actually, because I'm reading The Devils Are All Here, The Secret History of the Financial Crisis.
Okay.
And
It can't be too secret if
it's
it's
just
in a
a-
book.
It's just a lot of talk
Presumably.
about Wall Street and K Street and Manhattan and subprime mortgages, and just makes me think
Look at
of
this
you.
guy. Watch out.
Yeah. It's I don't know why I
Street.
started reading it. It's just making me angry.
Yeah,
Well, 'cause
it'll-
they also-
it'll- it'll do that.
I think these are the same people that did the Enron book, which is like incredible. So I like that kind of thing. But
Eric, I'd say if you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
yeah,
Ooh,
that's also fair.
Watch out, we're getting political.
woke.
Yeah.
John Schnars,
Yes, Eric.
please bring us the Duke word of the day.
Eric, today's word, the Mesozoa, Mesozoa. Mesozoa are minuscule worm-like parasites of marine invertebrates. Generally, these tiny, elusive creatures consist of a somatoderm, which is their outer layer, of ciliated cells surrounding one or more reproductive cell. So the Mesozoa, if you saw the picture of it, you would recognize it from The Faculty. It's essentially the general shape or structure of the creature that Elijah Wood finds in the field is a Mesozoa.
Wow, John. I'll yeah, good for you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks.
Nice.
Sometimes I bring my A game. There's not really a good what's it called, origin here, but I'm sure we could look it up. And if I did more research, which I didn't.
Perfect. Love it. You
Way
didn't.
to, really build me up there.
You-
Just-
You didn't do research because you were doing research on the movie, right? You just didn't have time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did a fair bit of research on the film. I knew a little bit about this coming in. I would have called this a favorite of mine from the 90s.
Ooh.
So,
Oh, there you go. Well,
Yeah.
tell me about it, John. Who's this Robert Rodriguez character? What was he up to in 1998?
Robert Rodriguez, probably most famous for Spy Kids. No, I joke. Desperado. So Robert Rodriguez sort of comes out with a bang, one might say, in the early to mid 90s. I was trying to find the exact date, but he had a film called El Mariachi, which was sort of like an underground film almost that got picked up.
Part of that like 90s independent boom.
Yeah, so I mean, in some ways, he's a filmmaker along and obviously really well connected to God damn it, what's his name? Tarantino.
Quentin Tarantino, yeah.
Yeah, both of whom were, I don't want to say discovered, but certainly nurtured by Miramax, also known as the Weinstein brothers. Now somewhat disgraced, but we should talk about them. They definitely had an impact on the 90s generally, but also on Robert
Yeah,
Rodriguez.
boy, that name came up at the end of the movie, and I went, literally, like physically pulled my collar away from my neck, like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, so
That feels
okay,
weird.
so Mariachi is 92. Desperado, which was the sequel, sort of the first American film, 1995. He does a film called Four Rooms. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's like a pretty goofy little
I have.
caper film.
Madonna.
Yeah.
I
You
love.
have From
love
Dusk Till
capers.
Dawn, 1996, and then The Faculty. And so The Faculty was a script that the Weinsteins had acquired, and they essentially liked the script. We can get into it, but it's a pretty straight body snatchers, not remake but homage. They bring in Kevin Williamson, who had a fair bit of success with the Scream films at this point. He basically does a rewrite, and they actually offered Williamson the opportunity to direct the film as well. He basically passed on that, and so they bring in Rodriguez, and so you basically have this film, which now looking back is really interesting. I'm sure we'll get into a lot of it. Like, it has all the touches and the flares that you would associate with Williamson, but then also a lot of kind of the zany effects heavy, but kind of like tongue-in-cheek effects heavy Rodriguez style as well, and then just like layer upon layer of references to other sci-fi films, other horror movies, action movies, just all kinds of crazy shit. So yeah, a
There you
wacky
go.
fun time.
Cool.
Oh,
Hey, Joe,
yeah. What's up, man?
what'd you think of this?
So this is actually the first time I have watched it, which is kind of interesting. I think we talked a little bit about it over email, that I don't really have any nostalgia for this. So it's kind of like just watching an old movie that came out 20 years ago for the first time, which is exactly what it was.
That is true.
I realized that halfway through that sentence that it made no sense. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's definitely a lot of flaws, which I'm sure we'll kind of get into. And there's, some stuff that I was kind of like, this is ridiculous. But I'm actually kind of bummed that I hadn't seen this earlier, because I think I would have watched it a few times by now. It definitely, I feel like it's a good one for like a group of buddies to sit around and watch, but it's also just, like fun on your own. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with it.
I was thinking back a lot to like how I would have received this movie back then, and it's impossible to know, but I feel like when I looked at what came out in 98, you already had a feeling of like post-Scream fatigue, I think, in some ways. So I think you see a movie like
Yeah.
this, literally the poster looks the same as all these post-Scream posters, right? Just like floaty teen heads and Kevin Williamson. And I remember being like a little nonplussed by it at the time, even though I didn't see it, but just like the idea of it.
I had like completely given up on horror movies at this point. Like, for sure, you're 100% right. Like, Scream came out, I wasn't like a huge fan, and then there was just this batch of movies that was kind of copying it, that I didn't care about. And then this one was, like I said, like I was in college at this point, so I didn't really give a shit about like a high school drama of like My So-Called Life with
It's
body snatchers involved.
I don't know. It's funny. It just kind of speaks to how much the overall climate is important because,
Yeah.
like, I'm always complaining about ghost movies now, right? But maybe in like 20 years, I see some random Insidious movie and I'm like, hey, that was pretty good. But it's
Yeah.
like at
Well,
the time, you have to kind of take into consideration what things were like at the time, or if you're just that's kind of I guess that's what I mean is that's the beauty of it going back now is I can just watch this and just take it in for exactly what it is and nothing
Yeah.
else with no other like implications.
yeah, I mean, it's not like there was like a bunch of body snatcher films out at the time. I mean, it's thematically similar to Scream, and I guess I know what you did last summer. I mean, in that they have like these kind of like teen characters in spooky situations, but the plot is fairly different. You did have this same year Urban Legend. I mean, you definitely
Right.
were getting to the end of this cycle of, I don't know.
Urban Legend was another late
Yes.
cycle one, and another
Yeah.
movie that I kind of look back on now with nostalgia, but at the time just being like, dude, whatever. Because it
Well,
seemed
and
like
this stuff
I
can-
know, I know what you did last summer too. To me, it's another one that I totally
But that
enjoy
one's
now.
terrible.
But
Like I think it's like you can like stack rank these things and like it's like I don't know. Joe seemed to not really like Scream. I mean, Scream's a pretty
Yeah.
fun movie still. I don't know.
I mean, also looking back at like the time that this came out and like this type of movie and like it's the others were like so like in your face. Like this was still at a time where like I was probably watching MTV and I'm sure you guys were too. And like these kids were on like TRL every day and it's just like
yeah, and John, I mean, you say they're not similar, but every single movie, it was a group of teens, and they were all written either by Kevin Williamson or somebody trying to be Kevin Williamson.
yeah.
It all kind of jokey in the same way, and kind of. I was pleasantly surprised by this, which makes total sense once you find out it's Rodriguez, that it's pretty their effects heavy and gore, not gore, but like violence heavy, which a lot of those movies were actually missing, and at some point just started becoming PG-13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Casey, what do you think of this? Watching it this time?
Watching it now, I had a lot of fun with it, and it was
Would you
cool
like
to
a
see.
lozenge?
Yes. Sorry for that one user on iTunes who says it sounds like I'm talking like I've been eating mayonnaise. I've been eating mayonnaise today, so that's where it comes from.
I
No,
do love mayonnaise.
I enjoyed this. I really like this watching this time. It holds up fairly well for a movie from 1998, and like you're talking about with especially when it came out of those films like Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer and stuff like that. And some of those, especially I Know What You Did Last Summer, this holds up even better just because of like they throw in more effects. There's a lot of cool effects stuff going on in here, which appeals to kind of the old school in me. There's Eric, you brought up a lot in the email about how parts of this are very close to Breakfast Club and themes and stuff like that. And I think it really mixes a lot together. Goes really well. I don't know if I saw this in theater when it first came out. This may have been like a home video watch, and I remember I were enjoying it when I watched it, but at the same time, it's been probably at least 10, 15 years since I saw it the last time, and I think I'm pretty happy we watched it again. I really enjoyed it.
Cece.
So, I mean, okay, I was 11 when this movie came out, so I'm sure that I was more of the demographic that they were shooting for, and I
Well, it was
really
rated R, CC. You probably weren't.
So
the
actually
demographic.
not,
Okay,
yeah.
well, my parents let me watch it because I totally saw it in theaters. But I think that I mean, I agree with y'all that yeah, like this whole series of movies were really kind of over the top and cheesy to an extent, but especially Scream and The Faculty like really did a great job of creating a lot of homages to classics that really if you were becoming a fan, it really showed you kind of a path of like, okay, well, if you like this, you should check out all of these because that's where we're pulling from. So I mean, I don't watch it regularly, but I've watched The Faculty multiple times in the past couple of years. So I was super stoked that we were watching this for the show because I still enjoy it, even though it's so over the top and just ridiculous now, even with just the dynamic of the high school in general. But yeah, I mean, I was very happy to watch it again, and I loved it the first time around too.
John.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned I have a lot of fondness for this movie. I think I actually remember the first time I saw it because it was with both my sisters, and we somehow got our hands on a copy. I mean, I think it was on home video, so I was old enough. I probably could have rented it. This was like another movie that I would recommend when I worked at the video store. It was like around the same time that it came out on VHS. So I really liked it when it came out. I think it's a lot of fun. I certainly at the time wasn't picking up on a lot of the film references that it makes. I mean, and there is like a huge list. I mean, even down to Joe called out, and I hadn't caught it previously, but the names of the characters are references in a
What
lot
was
of
the
cases.
really ridiculous one?
Well, the Jon Stewart's name is Professor Edward Furlong.
So
and
funny.
Well, I assume because what's his name? The T2000 there is the coach.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
hilarious.
wasn't there also a John Connor reference?
Well, I forget who it is, but one of the kids' last name is Connor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Elijah Wood was obviously named after Robert Rodriguez's favorite horror movie podcaster.
Who is it? It's because the first name's Casey.
Casey.
Isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. I wasn't catching what you were laying down.
Pretty sure that's the Simpsons.
The joke's a lot better when I have to explain it.
No, so I really like this movie. It's funny going back to watch it now because at the time, again, like I had seen El Mariachi, I had seen Desperado, I'm sure, but I didn't like have like strong associations with Rodriguez. So there's like a whole other layer that you get going back to it now. To me, this actually holds up, as you guys mentioned, like super well. The effects are great. There's actually a lot of humor in this movie. I mean, we can talk about like some of the like best sequences, but there's a lot of like physical humor tied to some of the effects, but just like, I don't know, overall, the acting, the cast. I mean, I don't think anyone's really mentioned like
cast is bonkers.
It's unbelievable the like depth. I mean, I mentioned Danny Masterson. He's credited as messed up one. He's basically like a dude who's like trying to buy drugs off Josh Hartnett, but like there are people in this that you recognize them and they don't even have speaking lines. It's like crazy. So really, really good time. And everybody's like, it seems like enjoying themselves, like they're putting in effort. And I think a lot of that comes through. And I think as I don't know, not like hammy as some of the like teen interactions are, it like feels genuine. And I don't know if that's because of the way it's directed. I think some of it is actually a credit to Williamson's writing. It's not that it's like exactly how teens talk, but it like feels believable in a way that some teen dialogue doesn't. I don't know. Maybe
I also
it's
felt
just
like
I'm old now and can't judge that stuff.
I also felt like the references here, as compared to Scream, another thing he wrote, like they were at least in some cooked up way related to the plot, right? Because you had a character just way into science fiction, but then those things, that knowledge became important at some point, as opposed to Screamer, people are just saying dumb shit the whole movie about.
Well, it's actually really funny, right? Because what you're referencing, the Clea Duvall character essentially spells out the entire film in like the first act. And it's one of those things where there's a lot of sci-fi movies or even genre films more generally where you'll ask the question like, well, why don't they reference X other movie that there's always that question of like, what universe is this plot set in if they're not referencing like this exact same thing happening and other thing. I don't know, but so I actually really like that they played around with that, and it does it essentially becomes like how they solve the film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. This is actually the first time I've ever watched it all the way through. I've caught like bits and pieces of it before, and it's just when you can go back on it now in a vacuum and not really think about anything else. I just think it's super entertaining. It's really wacky. The CGI is bad, but in a way that I actually, this is a kind of a new feeling for me, but it was almost kind of quaint, the 90s CGI, because you don't expect it to be good. Although I always
very like Men in Black. Sort of CGI
well, I always say like, oh, it was 1998, but Jurassic Park CGI is like incredible, and that came out in what, like 95 or 3 or something like that.
Yeah,
but
it was definitely before.
But there, then there's also some fun practical effects. I thought the scene where they're dissecting the little worm thing was like incredibly disgusting, but like that was all just latex rubbery stuff. Insane cast, like an insane cast of popular teen actors at the time, But then all of the faculty are just either straight up great actors or like character actors. It's like BB Newirth and Selma Hayek and Famke Janssen, Famke Johnson. The dude,
John Stewart.
Listen,
That's definitely not how we say her name.
John Stewart, Patrick. What's the guy's first name? Agent Doggett, let's say.
Shooter McGavin.
Shooter McGavin.
Mr.
Mr. Kruger from Seinfeld, who I think is a pretty unsung character actor.
It is impossible to listen to him talk without like thinking of his Seinfeld character.
Yeah,
It's so well because that's kind of his shtick. That's kind of his shtick, is like that laid back, ineffectual thing, and it's the same thing here, but it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like amazing.
Well, I'm going home.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, George, what's the human fund? But yeah, I don't know. I had a blast with this movie. It's so fun. I think that I had a lot of '90s boyhood crushes come back to me while watching this movie. We can talk about. Really kind of relate to the plight of one Elijah Wood, just being a tiny person in high school and trying to navigate that field.
He came out all right.
He seems to be doing all right. Yeah. Good for him. But yeah, it's a ton of fun, and like it's such a fun little time capsule of unexpected things. And we forgot to mention Usher. Usher's in this movie.
Oh my God, Usher. Yeah, another person who literally like doesn't really have much of a role. I mean,
I remember when this came out, like they touted him as like the star. Like they like
he's
Usher,
on the poster. He is the second face basically on the poster,
and he's in it for like maybe 5 minutes.
Usher was big in '98, John.
Yeah.
No, I mean I love Usher. No problem with Usher.
Not
right?
number one song. Not next. Too close, big apparently.
I wonder what was the Usher song in 1998. We should look that up.
Oh, I don't know. I'll get to the bottom of this. Wait.
We'll sit around. He had My Way in 1997.
Yeah, My Way. That was like his huge album, wasn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
That was 97,
second studio album was released September 1997, so basically 98.
Yeah, I remember that.
This is amazing. Featuring guest appearances from Monica, Jermaine Dupri, and Lil Kim.
No, Eric, I wanted to jump in on the effects, because while they are quaint, I actually, in some ways, I think some of it is intentional, right? There's a lot of stuff here that references, I would say, The Thing as like a really sort of like heavy reference, especially when you get to say like third act and the alien is just in like full bore attack mode.
And they do the test scene just with the
whole
thing,
the whole test scene.
There's a spider head later on, not nearly as good, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Usher had the number 9 song with Nice and Slow, the number 15 with You Make Me Wanna, and the number 16 with My Way.
You Make Me Wanna is a jam. I remember that song.
Not a fan.
You make me want to lose the one I'm with, Schnars.
I mean, Nice and Slow from My Way is like one of the best songs ever.
There you go.
Ever, huh? Wow, okay.
It's not a very goth thing to say. So that's off-brand.
I mean, it is off-brand, but I have to support him because we're from Atlanta.
Oh, Hotlanta connection. I got it. Now I got it.
Did they make Usher lunchboxes that they sold at Hot Topics?
They do. They do.
Yeah, it's just like it's so amazingly 90s. We didn't. Jordana Brewster is also in this. And Josh Hartnett and his dumbass hair.
I thought Josh Hartnett was excellent in this film.
Now here's what I decided actually during this movie 20 years later that I don't like Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And
right
I realized
there. I
it's like
him in the face.
he has one thing he does. It's like this really put on like pouty teen idol thing where he's pouty and he looks in your eyes all intense and his lips are like all open and he's just like fish faced.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I will say, in Penny Dreadful, like he really polishes his act up, and in Penny Dreadful, he's actually really, really good. But that's really
Josh
the only.
Hartnett's in Penny Dreadful. Oh, I'm thinking of Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, no, Penny Dreadful.
Those are two different things.
His entire role is pretty much the douchebag in Woodtech that we all hated.
Yes.
In every movie.
I actually like he's believable in the role. Like,
is he though? Okay, we can get into some of these details. They never explain why Josh Hartnett doesn't graduate the year before, even though, based on what we've seen, he is smarter than most of the teachers at this
Well,
school.
yeah, there's a lot of references to the fact that his parents are never around and that they like travel. Like they like make fun of him because
they
his
must
mom's like traveling a lot.
they must
which-
literally never be around because he has a drug lab in their garage and they
Like
just
and a gun that he's just like casually leaving around. On
Well,
the
he mentioned a
table.
couple times he didn't know where they were at the moment. So
Yeah. It's really weird. I was just looking at Josh Hartnett's page on Box Office Mojo. He basically took almost a 10-year hiatus from working in film. So
Whoa.
he was in 30 Days a Night, and he basically has not been in another film that's been on more than 200 screens.
Well,
Put it
yeah,
that way.
he had to
Another-
grow his
And we're better people for it, John.
he had to grow his bangs back out. That takes a while.
Eh,
I do love this period of movies where, like, if you think about a couple things, teenage films now, I actually feel like there's been a swing back to casting actual teenagers. And the funny thing is, we spent years complaining about 20-somethings playing teenagers, but now it annoys the crap out of me when somebody looks like 12 and they're in a high school movie.
Which is
But
what,
also-
like, a lot of high school students actually look
Also,
like.
this is like smack dab in the prime of there were no parents in these movies ever. Like now, if you see a movie with teens, there's always parents. There's always something going on with the parents. You would swear all these kids were orphans in this movie.
Oh, so
the shooter's there.
yeah,
That's
shooters
true.
are- no,
one
fucking
one
have it.
kid has parents.
Elijah Wood was 17 when this movie was made. So
Yeah, and he looks
know,
way younger than everyone.
Well, the rest of them, not the oldest one was that guy. Like I said, he was 23. Like they weren't
Ugh.
super old. Even
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett was 20.
Toothy.
So I don't know.
Toothy McGavin.
The thing, Joe, to your point, like the thing that is weird about this movie is how many characters there are. Like
It's crazy.
they
yeah.
Oh,
they give every one of these characters like just enough for you to kind of know who
zero
they-
backstory. Like,
well,
Yeah.
but you like know who they cheat, right? They use all the like shorthand like high school stuff. Like Josh Hartnett was like the kid that you hated in Woodjack. Who like failed
Yeah,
the
no, the
series.
archetype.
some
Stan was
reason
the
that-
jock.
that one gal pretends to be a lesbian, so other people won't speak to her for some reason.
Yeah,
I
that,
think
was,
it was
that
supposed
was
to be a rumor.
A very late
What-
90s approach to that storyline.
Didn't
But
she
yeah.
confirm it at one point though? I thought she said like, no, I just don't like people or something like.
She says that she made it up or something, didn't she?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like she made it up. I don't know. You're right though. Like every character has like zero depth, and it's super confusing. Like
Well,
the
it's
jock is deciding he doesn't want to play football anymore just because it makes people like him. Like
yeah. No, well,
You know
yeah,
what's
he,
even
like,
what's even
he-
funnier about Stokely, Clea Duvall's character is, we've been calling her all day on the email chain, talking about her being a goth and stuff like that. She's definitely dressed like the goth. She's got the whole all black and everything going, but they never call her goth in that movie. She is the sci-fi freak.
yeah, man.
Like that was a thing in 1998.
I don't know, maybe was she
Oh.
goth? Maybe she wasn't goth. Maybe she.
Yeah, maybe that's why it didn't matter that she changed her clothes at the end.
She,
Maybe-
I feel like
Maybe
she,
she was just
had-
doing laundry the day of the. Christmas.
Maybe.
I feel like she had the black clothes and I don't know, but it's like the setup for the Breakfast Club, right? Like Kevin Williamson or whoever wrote this original screenplay was obviously watching the Breakfast Club on loop because he hits all the major archetypes. And it's like, but in the Breakfast Club, they present them as stereotypes, and then the whole movie is about getting to know them and like finding out that they're not who you think they are. But this movie, because it's got a million other things to accomplish, just introduces them,
Just
and then
they
that's just who
are
they
those
are.
people.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
what
but
they are.
Now
It's a-
they still hit the other angles though, because Stan was the star quarterback, but he wanted to quit football to be an academic.
Yeah,
Let's
but they
bring
make
his
it
grades
perfectly clear that Stan is
He's a
not an
dumbass.
academic.
Yeah,
No,
It's
I was
like
gonna say, that's what when I say that this movie is like there's like some jokes. So like he goes through this whole thing about how he's like, I tried so hard to get a D, and then the teacher like gave him a B because he's a fool. And he's like, but I earned that D.
it's like they make it perfectly clear. They're like, no, Stan, you should keep playing football because you're an idiot.
I mean that's the
I,
thing though, is I don't think it deters. I don't think it takes away from my enjoyment of the film. I think it's there, but really there's still a lot of fun interaction between the characters, even as shallow as they are. To John's
yeah.
point,
No, it's super goofy. My favorite goofy like characterization, it's like strong to even call it that, is the Jordana Brewster character and how like important the school newspaper
Oh
and
my
like quote unquote
God.
getting stories is.
Yeah, she kept talking about winning a Pulitzer.
Yeah, well, she was just like, "What's gonna run on the front page? What are we gonna do? We don't have any stories." Like, I don't know that this is.
Well,
how
and then
the
he's
school
like-
paper works.
they're in the teachers' lounge, so They break into the teacher's lounge in the world's
To find
shittiest school ever.
Yeah.
Like everything is breaking down. The wood is rotted. The paint is peeling off. It looks like they found an abandoned school, did nothing to it, and shot it in there. And which actually I kind of like. It almost kind of adds to the atmosphere. But they're looking for a story, and they find this flask who is Kruger's, and he's like, "Oh, what about Kruger's sneaking the booze or whatever?" And she's like, "No, we did that expose last year." And I'm like, the school just let you write an article about how the teacher was a drunk.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Well, I like though that when, like with Jordana Brewster's character, when they were giving all the characters their kind of Breakfast Club side personality that was hidden and you didn't know, hers kind of equated to not wearing hairspray and wearing her glasses instead of contacts.
Well, we find out why that is later. Also.
Yeah.
Well,
Hard to
yeah,
tell.
but still,
That wasn't even her thing. Like, she probably wouldn't have done that if...
that's true. Fair point.
I like too how the whole like there's this very key plot point about Josh Hartnett being a drug manufacturer, but then you find out he's really just making some weird shit with like caffeine pills or something, and then
Yeah.
and then emptying out pens. First of all, he can't be making any money. You know how expensive those pens are. He gives away the doses in pens. Like he's just throwing the ink out. Like what a waste.
I don't know that the
But
pens
he
are
does
that
it-
expensive.
But
Yeah.
there's a scene where they all have to
Sold
take the
from the
drugs. The scene where they're like replicating the thing test scene, and Elijah Wood has to act like he's been on drugs, and you just know that dude had never been on drugs before because he's like,
Yeah.
like
I'm
it's
laughing.
so funny. Oh my God.
Well, there's a scene where Josh Hartnett, like, full-on sexually harasses Famke. And
Yes,
there's
yeah.
no
What are you talking about?
repercussions.
It's both of them though. Because I guess
No,
she's like on the
no,
alien when she comes back to life.
Yeah, no, that first scene where he's like, "Do you want these rubbers?" and she just like storms away. Like, what school is this where you can't get
Cherry.
in trouble for that?
Cherry
Yeah, I know.
Right,
flavored.
like I never thought that was weird until I got older, and now I'm like, oh god, that's so creepy. Like that's a horrible, horrible way to put it in
I
a
think,
movie.
well, that's the thing. And there was like, I feel like the late 90s, because it was in the news, you started seeing that type of thing crop up more in movies. But now that, as a student, yeah, you don't think much of it because it was just kind of a reality in the news and stuff. But as an older person with potentially a child or just like having more perspective, you're like, what the hell?
Keep in
man?
mind, he was 19 because he was repeating his senior
Yeah.
year. So, you know,
So
maybe
that's
it's
okay.
Cooler than.
But like
Can you
today,
imagine
that would have been national news.
Can you imagine what it would have really been like to be like a teenage boy in high school, like where hormones are developing, and Famke, Selma Hayek, and Lilith Crane is in your school? Like, my goddamn head would have exploded.
Lilith Crane. Yeah.
Joe.
Maybe that's why he repeated his senior year.
Hold on. Let's just, before we close this out with the.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Can you imagine he's like, no, I'm not fucking graduating. Selma Hayek is my nurse.
I have a tickle in my throat.
As long as I
Yeah.
can.
I'm
Before we
sick
close
every
out, though,
day.
it has to be mentioned that the final sequence of the film, somewhat of a spoiler, is that they've like survived, and Josh Hartnett is now the quarterback of the football team, which is like the biggest football team. It's the biggest team in the school. They show him
Which is
smoking
ridiculous.
a cigarette on
yeah.
the field during practice, and the
He's
coach
a badass.
the coach yells at him to put it out or something like that. And then he looks over in the stands, and Famke Jens is sitting in the stands
Waiting for
by herself, watching practice and waving and winking at him. It was
Like smelling his leather jacket. Like, oh, I can't wait.
I'm so glad you said that, Schnars, because
Ah.
oh god, I hope I can find this note. I made a note of one line from the movie. Okay, yes. So during the football game, okay, so there's just like penultimate football game where like almost everyone in the school has been turned, and it's
including
hilarious.
the football team.
The football team, and it's hilarious because you see them like turning the other team during the match, and by the end of the game, like everybody in the whole stadium is turned. But they're like literally Usher tackles the dude and just bends down in his ear and just goes blah and like spits the thing into his ear. But there's this
Like throwing worms at people.
there's this hilarious point where they cut to the coach, right? And you could tell the director was like, I don't know, like yell some football thing. And the coach yells out to the team, "Come on, ladies, let's play fourth quarter." What?
Well, yeah, he's not a football fan.
Let's play not even like let's do good. Come on, ladies, let's play fourth quarter.
Is that what
I
he
mean,
said? I thought he said
the
let's
ladies
play
part
all
is,
four
like, pretty
quarters.
I wrote it down because I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Well, just
I
just
think-
'cause you
And then
put
I
it
was
down
like,
doesn't
see,
mean I'm
this, see,
trying to
this, it's
disprove you right now.
see, it's
I
really,
was-
it's really meta schnars because they're aliens. They don't know anything about football.
There you go. See, I actually think that was smart. There,
Well, so
I-
there's another scene though where in we find out who the main alien is, and when they turn into this big monster, it's like this big giant bulbous like caterpillar monster looking thing, and she's giving this soliloquy about how like on my planet everybody's the star quarterback, and all I could think was like, so is your planet just like full of big like worm things, but there's also high school? Like I get that she's
Who's
just
the receivers?
I get
How do
that
you have
she's-
a team full of nothing but quarterbacks?
I get that she's just manipulating him, but there was like at the time when she's in that form and saying that, it's so funny.
it was a point about assimilation, Eric.
No, I understand,
Schnars.
Schnars.
The
It's a metaphor, but still.
Science.
No, that was one of the. You just made me think of one of the other sort of. It's not even fair to call it a joke, but like something that is amusing that I thought was well done, like a good touch, is the water and like the increasing volume of water that is being brought into the school
Yeah.
throughout. So like at one point, there's literally just like a truck of those like huge 5-gallon water drums that like pulls up in front of the school, and it's just like the dude is trucking water and like stacking it in
Well,
the teachers.
And that kind of actually is a great point to this larger thing that I felt about this movie, that what this movie does really great at is it feels big. Like there's a big universe with a bunch of mythos presented, and they just are really great at reiterating everything, and the campus feels huge, and that gives it this epic feeling, right? Because there's all these places they can run around and be chased, and the football stadium is a huge like southern style football stadium. I don't know, I felt like they did really great at making everything feel big and impactful, which just makes it a lot of fun and really suspenseful.
Well, there's some really good. I felt that there was some really good tension once they got out into the parking lot after the rain started during the football game, and like when Josh Hartnett and Elijah Wood were trying to sneak out to Josh Hartnett's car. Then you have the whole football team stalking them between the buses and stuff. There's some decent tension there. There's a scene later once Josh Hartnett gets to his car and Famke shows up, and there is some pretty good tension there too. So as cheesy as this movie sounds, there was actually some pretty good stuff in there making you kind of edge of your seat a little bit.
I agree, although
Famke.
it's funny, like it makes sense why Josh Hartnett went outside, right? Because he wanted to get his keys. But the football player had zero reason to go outside. He's like, all right, guys, I'm just going to go check things out. When
I'll
he,
go check by myself.
yeah, when he knows
Yeah.
that the whole team was like, they're pretty convinced at that point that everybody was flipped over. He's like, no, it's cool.
Well,
I
no,
think
he
it
was
does-
going to go try to find the coach, wasn't he? That wasn't it.
Well, they
Is it?
thought
But why?
they
You
thought
know
they may
he's-
have killed the master with
He was
Bebe.
going to check the coach to see if like he was back to normal. But it actually
Oh yeah.
I know we're joking about it, but this does kind of bring up one of the things I really liked about this movie was that in like especially back then, like all these kids were kind of big-ish stars for the time. And I was half expecting like that group that we were following, nobody to change or be affected. But actually I like the fact that they like at one point I don't remember anybody's name, but the newspaper gal gets turned and then the football player gets turned. Like
yeah.
I was kind of surprised that they actually went that far, where like everybody was being affected.
Well,
by this.
no,
Like,
yeah,
I
the
got
whole school turns like almost immediately, which is great because
Yeah.
it just feels like this insurmountable odds that they're up against.
Yeah,
Yeah, and to that point too, and this is spoiler worthy, so if you haven't seen this by chance, here's your
He's
warning.
20 years old. I don't
But
know.
the fact that Mary
It's much
Beth,
stuff.
who's the student from out of school, which when you look back, the setup is obvious. It'd been so long since I saw this movie, I completely forgot the fact that she was the big bad. So when she starts revealing herself in the school gym, I was kind of legit like, oh shit.
I actually totally didn't remember either. It's funny.
Did you guys notice? Not to jump ahead, but in the end credits, it turns out that Jon Stewart didn't die.
No.
Yeah, he's in the credit. Like as the credits, as they're rolling, like everyone, they show him, and he's got like an eye patch on.
Oh, funny.
Oh really?
No,
Yeah.
I turned it off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny too. So when they reveal that girl as the main alien, and you're like, oh well, she did the test, but I didn't really need to be shown it. Like all I needed to know was like, okay, she just faked it somehow. They have the
Yeah.
most hilarious reenactment
Yeah.
of how she
Yes.
faked the test, like the most improbable, unreasonable thing
Her
ever.
nostril flaps.
Well, how about her finger?
Nostril
like,
flap, and then she somehow managed to dump the drugs out of the bottom without anybody noticing.
No, well, and her finger changes. Like in that
Yeah.
sequence, it like turns into like an alien finger to like knock the thing off.
Yeah, but
so
to Eric's
stupid.
point, they're all huddled around each other in the basement of Josh Hartnett's house. How did they not see?
Well,
Well, I think
but
at that point everybody else was also high.
No,
It
but
was
she
her
gets-
and
no, but she gets saved by Jordana Brewster turning because they both do it at the same time.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't-
But what I'm saying is like the way that they potentially we could say that they didn't notice was the fact like everybody else was already goofy by the time her and Jordana Brewster were supposed to be doing it.
Yeah,
You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
And
I
they did a good
followed
job.
you. Don't worry.
You see a lot in these type of movies nowadays in a modern time that they kind of lay it on heavy with the hints early on that somebody may be something more than they appear and whatnot. But with her, I think her name was Mary Beth. They showed early on when she first met Josh Hartnett's character. He asked her if he wanted any of his scat that he was selling, and she
Scat.
just said it was one line: "I'm allergic to aspirin, sorry," and that was like the only hint they gave you.
God, I forgot they called it scat. Jesus Christ. It's
Like
just
that's
so
the worst name for a drug.
the
Like I
worst.
would like you could have come up with something better.
What was the like fake drug that where people were like taking shit and like fermenting it, and then do you remember this on the internet? It was like a fake
Jenkum.
thing.
Jankum was like
yes,
it was like
that's the worst.
it was
What?
like it
It's
was like
called Jankum?
it was like
Cece thought I was joking.
It was like
yeah, I was like, are you kidding?
wasn't it like poop and pee or something?
yeah,
Ugh.
it was,
And they
it
let
was
it
fake.
ferment, and they
It
huff
was
it.
Joe
fake.
doesn't know either. That's disgusting.
I've never heard of this. What are you guys
It
talking
was
about?
it was
This
like one
is
of
now?
those things.
I
that
think it
became,
turned
like,
out to
an-
be a hoax.
It was
Yeah.
like 5 years ago.
It was like an internet hoax from like 2007 where like news people were like first getting turned onto the internet, and the internet convinced them that this like fake drug was something that kids were doing to get high.
It literally like made the news as a
So we
thing.
went from Jankum to Tide Pods. Like that's where the world's going.
Basically, it's the same.
Here we
thing.
are.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got to wrap here. The Faculty, fun little blast from the past. Would you recommend it, John?
Yes.
Casey?
Oh, definitely.
Joe?
Yeah, I would say. And I'm sorry, one more thing we have to note is that there is a couple full-on fist fighting throughout this school for the entire movie.
Yeah, what was the deal with that?
Yeah, they and well, that actor, the dude, was like someone I recognize. I don't
John
know.
Abrams, I think. Or-
Yeah.
In the beginning, in the beginning, I just wrote down, why is this school so violent?
Yeah. Sorry, but yes, I would
No,
recommend.
you're right. Cece?
Yes, definitely.
Nice. This movie also made me kind of sad that like Jon Stewart didn't keep acting in goofy horror movies because he's kind of fun.
I know. I loved him.
His 90s goatee, man. Oh my god, goatees. Good lord. All right, guys.
And he was convincing too, because I think he would have been a fun science teacher.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's gonna do it. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Samuel P. Fuller, age 24. Linda Mae Jenkins, age 19. Attacked March 3rd, 1946. Howard W. Turner, age 29. Emma Lou Cook, 17. Both found dead in a wooded area March 24th, 1946. Roy Allen, 17. Peggy Loomis, 15. Both found dead April 14th, 1946, Spring Lake Park. Floyd Reed, age 34, found dead in his home May 3rd, 1946. Mrs. Reed shot twice but survived. This man's identity, unknown. Believed to be between the age of 34 and 40. Wearing a white hood, he was known as the Phantom Killer. Believed to be still today living and walking free in the streets of Texarkana, Arkansas. Now, Charles B. Pierce brings to the giant screen one of the most incredible true stories ever filmed. The Town That Dreaded Sundown, starring Academy Award winner Ben Johnson from American International Pictures, rated R.
This is Zoe Bell, and you're listening to the Bloody Good Horror Podcast.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we're back.
Oh, hey.
One email tonight, info@bloodygoodhorror.com. This is from Sean. Sean wrote in a couple weeks ago. He is I believe, in the military, and he's stationed in Korea. I believe that's how this started. And he says, I was just curious what his experiences were like as a horror fan in a foreign country, and asked him to write in, so he did. He said, in regards to the horror genre in South Korea, let me preface my answer by saying I'm a U.S. military member serving a one-year tour here, so my knowledge of the culture in general is limited, and I have access to amenities on U.S. bases that most Koreans do not. That said, I haven't felt my access to U.S. theatrical horror movies to be limited. I'm not fluent in Korean, so I don't go to local theaters to watch South Korean-produced movies, but South Korean theaters show most U.S. blockbusters with Hangul captions. I was able to see Infinity War and Solo at the local IMAX. That's cool. Fun aside, land is very limited here for the world's 11th largest economy, so South Koreans tend to build up, not out. For example, over 60% of the country's 50 million people live in high-rise apartment buildings. As a result, my local theater is on the 10th floor of a department store building. That's kind of cool. For U.S. horror films specifically, in my experience, they usually aren't shown in local theaters, but many U.S. military bases have theaters on them, and they show most wide-release horror movies. I was therefore able to watch Happy Death Day, A Quiet Place in a theatrical environment. Winchester also played, but I didn't go because I got a heavy dumpster fire vibe from the trailer. It's true.
You are correct.
On a related note, do you have a favorite South Korean-produced horror movie? Train to Busan comes to mind, but I haven't caught up with A Tale of Two Sisters yet. Thoughts? Cheers, Sean from Korea. P.S. Eric, yes, I have written in before to express sympathy with Joe's childhood kleptomania.
Yeah.
Joe, you were a kleptomaniac, so was I.
I had a period. Yeah, there were some fountain pens. being
Joe,
stolen.
yeah,
I had
Joe,
a streak too.
CC,
I used to
Joe.
steal stuff from people in my class until like there was a huge intervention.
Wow, that's savage.
God.
Joe,
My intervention was with the security guard at our local Kmart.
Joe was just stealing fountain pens from faceless corporate robber barons. You were stealing your fellow man.
I know.
Casey, did you have to be intervened, or did you just grow out of it on your own? Like a
No,
normal
but
human?
my first, I did grow out of it normally, and mine was GI Joe, guys. Just for the record.
Nice.
But with my first job in high school, I worked at a local 5 and dime store called Geo Perry, and I got to help the assistant manager scare the shit out of kids he caught shoplifting. It was awesome.
I definitely stole Pogs when I was a little kid.
Stole what?
Pogs.
Oh,
Speaking of 90s shit.
I mean, I stole dumb shit like
Yeah.
Pogs or like erasers and stuff, and then
Right.
I would just throw them away. So I don't really know why I was stealing them.
No,
in the first
Joe was
place,
stealing
Just to feel alive.
I
Joe-
guess.
Joe was stealing Mont Blanc pens.
yeah. I was stealing fountain pens, cassette tapes, and other random. A lot of baseball
Were
cards.
you,
Joe,
were you
how-
stealing all of these things to make
Cigarettes,
mixtapes for the
lot of
lady that you
cigarettes.
finally bed?
Joe, how did you get the security thing off the tapes?
You could eventually cut those off with.
Really?
They weren't like that. Yeah. And cigarettes. That was back when they were like right at the counter, so you could just walk up and put those right in your pocket and leave.
Oh yeah, I used to steal chewing tobacco in junior high.
I remember we
What
had
is-
when I worked at the Grand Union, Joe, and they had a box like at that point they sold cigarettes in like at the office or whatever. You had to ask, but in the back of the office, like if you actually went in, they had a box where I don't know what the shit was. I feel like it was like expired or just really old shit they
I remember
couldn't
that.
sell.
I worked at Hanford.
And we
they would
worked
have to
there, and we
set
would
aside
just
some
like we would just take them all the time. Then nobody gave a shit. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
So you just be smoking some like disgusting like cancer ass like cigarette stuff that was
It was
also
all like Misties and like Virginia Slims.
that was
like-
also old and stale and like completely disgusting. So there you go. Fun
Good times.
Thank you for writing in with that perspective on being a horror fan in Korea.
We should mention we have friend of the show, Jared, recently returned to the United States for the summer, but lives in Korea.
Oh.
So maybe Sean and Jared, I don't know if they let you off the base. You guys should hook up, get together, check out. He could read you the subtitles on the South Korean subtitles, I guess.
Very nice. What do we got on Twitter, John?
All right, start with some BGH classics. These are some humorous moments from previous shows as surfaced from our patrons who are checking out the back catalog by supporting us on patreon.com. So the first one comes through us from Mi Corazon Mi Amor. She says, this one Well, I'll just read it. I get up really early too, but I don't steal people's thoughts. I just watch Softcore on Cinemax.
It's true.
Anyone want to guess who said that?
I got a guess.
It was Eric.
So I talked.
Oh, really?
I actually
Oh,
talked.
yeah.
I talked about this a lot on the show at the time, but at the time, the company I was working for afforded me free Comcast cable with every single movie channel, like on every tier, like every sports channel, everything. And so I was also getting up really early at the time, like 5:30 in the morning to go running, and I would sit and eat first before I went running, and like so I was flipping around the channels, and I was just like, holy shit! Like they would still be playing the softcore from the night before because it wouldn't end until 6. So I would just sit there like eating my cereal, just like watching these like, and I there's just like there are different levels of production value in these movies, John. That's what I learned in doing this. Like there's clearly you can
tell, Eric.
you can tell when there's a director who really wants to be a director and just got this gig and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make the best out of this. I'm gonna make the best damn softcore movie you've ever seen, and it's gonna like get me a job. And then you can tell the dude who like used to be a biker and then just like came into some money and decided this is what he was gonna do. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Good times.
Also, it wakes you up.
The next one comes to us from Monica and is also an air quote. See if you can guess the subject of the quote. I was literally going to kill it. I was going to bite its throat and drink its blood. I was going to fucking crap down its throat. I was so angry.
Wow. Jeez.
That was a quote from me.
Yeah, that was Eric on his neighbor's cat.
I like that Eric goes, maybe me.
We were laying in bed, my wife and I, this is when we were in Florida, couldn't sleep, and this horrendous noise was coming from outside, and it sounded like people banging, because I don't know, it was like distant, it sounded like moaning or something, and then it was going on for hours. I'm just like, I can't effing sleep, like what is going on? So finally we decided it was a cat, like hours later.
Yeah.
And I literally went outside with a tennis racket. That's what I was talking about, because I was going to murder this cat. And it turned out in the apartment above us, they had put the cat outside in the open patio and shut it outside. And so for like 4 hours, the thing just cried.
Jesus.
Oh my God, it was horrendous. So I couldn't even get to it to murder it, Schnar. So there you go.
That was episode 33, Ginger Snaps.
Ooh.
Probably didn't have anything to do with the episode. I think you might have just been having a bad day.
No, like because at episode 33, I was still living in that apartment, so it probably had just happened.
Yeah, no, I imagine. We got 2 here from That Baseball Joe. Checking in from, this is episode 223 VHS and then episode 259 VHS 2. The first one, and Mom tells me I'm awesome no matter how many people listen to the show. That's from our own Mark, Mark BGH. The other one, this is I'll just read it. Who jerks off in the middle of a room around his friends? asks Joe. They were asleep, Casey said. So
I don't know. You haven't seen what Schnars had to go through to get into that fraternity of his.
Yeah, exactly.
Balls and shit.
Couple here from Skizbot. First one, Eric. Every time I hear the word Maverick, my brain shuts down because all I can do is picture the homoerotic volleyball from Top Gun replaying in slow motion in my mind.
It's true.
Oh, Val Kilmer.
Playing with the boys.
Episode 45, top 5 disturbing moments. I don't know if that was one of your moments, but here we are. The next one is from episode 40, Basket Case. Mark says, reading a Google search that led to the BGH website that week. Do most boys have wet dreams about sisters? Oh, that can't be real. That
poor
was one
guy.
Of
Well, I don't know. So I think that's Schnars, but then also like, there's just now it's just like adolescents are just on the internet Googling every weird random question they have about life, right? Like,
we did have weird shit on the internet back then. So on our website, I mean.
I don't even want to know.
Because the search had to lead to our website. That's the weird.
I want to know what it linked to. Yeah.
The next one comes from Jake. That's at jhar0. Mark says, also, homeless people being indoors is one of John's greatest fears. And I just responded with, oh, come on. That's episode 356, Last Shift. 2 more here. The next one from at Dilly D. Williams. That's Dylan Ligard. John, I assume this is me. We have a voiceover from her that actually begins something along the lines of, I have 7 clits. Oh, okay. Hold on. And then Joe says, "Call me Ishmael." So I don't know. But it's from episode 124, Bad Biology.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, that movie. There's some
Yep.
shit that goes on in that movie.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Monica checks back in. At the end of the day, it's the media's job to take it straight up the rears of every politician and president there is. What? That's an Eric quote. Episode 40, basket case.
There was a lot of 2008 election stuff going on, my guess, back around then. So
I guess.
back when we actually talked politics in the show.
There was an editorial here. She says, "Perfect quote for this week so far. I'd laugh, but I'm too depressed."
Yeah.
Hashtag Trumpster fire. So
It's not great. It's not great, John. It's not great.
Yeah. So here we are.
Cool.
All right. Let's we'll flip over to Ask BGH. So this is a hashtag we monitor to take any and all of your most pressing horror related questions. I gotta quickly find the last one. Okay. So here we go. If you no, we did that one, sorry. God damn it. In a The Thing scenario, who out of the BGH crew would be the last person standing?
I'm a germaphobe, so I might have better luck at not getting infected.
Yeah, I'd go with Eric. That tracks.
Yeah.
Also,
This is that was from PS Trophy Hunter at PS Trophy
also,
Hunter.
unlike Elijah Wood, I would not hesitate to cap any of you guys if you became possessed by murdered hands.
This next one
Isn't that
pretty
that's
good.
like a recurring thing in the movie? Does he get like a moment? Like you know what he kills the monster at the end, so I guess he does get like redemption for like not being able to, because that's like a recurring thing. Like, oh, he can't step up to the plate.
He doesn't
and...
shoot the teacher like when
Yeah.
the first. I'll be honest. If Famke comes up to me and she's like, "Look, I'm a squid person. I'm gonna take you over," I'll be like, "Fuck, you're Famke. Absolutely, go for it." Famke,
Give me all your worms.
give me all your Famkes.
Oh my
yeah.
With your
All
little
right. This next one's actually pretty important. So, Basura Caliente. So, I'm not going to read the name. It's at PRK something something. Did Josh Hartnett ever tame that cowlick? As a cowlick sufferer, I feel like it may have murdered him, as I haven't seen him around lately.
Here's the thing
and
about
I
it.
think I may be next.
Here's the thing, and it's part of why I hate him so much now. Is it? I'm like convinced that it's fake. Like that.
Oh, it looks intentional.
His hair has the look of not of like bedhead, but of like somebody who sat in a stylist chair for an hour trying to get bedhead.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I
I'm
think
actually
that's
taking
like
a screenshot to my
haircut
stylist.
very much made to look that way. Like
Yeah.
it's a choppy haircut on purpose.
Right.
But
those aren't
I don't think he
cowlick.
has long hair in Penny Dreadful, which I mean could be a wig, but I mean it's not there, so maybe
right.
he's
Well, he also
Now I'm
he also
googling.
discovered bowler hats in Penny Dreadful, so it kind of helped.
Oh, good point. It
No.
holds it down.
Now I'm
I had
googling
no
what he
idea
looks
that
like
Cece
now.
was such a Josh Hartnett apologist.
Yeah, see,
I
his
mean,
hair's
I might have had a crush on him for a fleeting moment.
his hair is longer now.
A
It
regretful
definitely
fleeting moment.
it definitely looks better now.
Mm.
He attended SUNY Purchase, John.
Huh,
There you go.
that explains it.
So
He's a
he al-
perchy, huh?
Purchase.
Basura Caliente also says, "You're welcome for your word of the day." He tweeted me and told me I should use Calic, but I'm just seeing this now, so here we are. Barry Elmstrand at Schlocky Grotto. What makes you feel older? The fact that this was made 20 years ago, or that after 2 decades and a half dozen Hobbit films, Elijah Wood still looks the same?
Oh,
And what's
yeah.
the chance you still have this movie soundtrack in your car stereo, Joe?
No, absolutely not.
Elijah Wood and Paul Rudd have the same like Benjamin Button
Yeah.
situation
We
going on.
didn't even mention
Crazy.
we didn't even mention there's legit Creed in this movie, like soundtrack.
Oh, this soundtrack is hot garbage. All right. Any movie that could start with The Offspring, who I'm still sick of 20 years later, and still be decent, like that says a lot about.
Yeah, I'll
it.
be honest. I was never a big Offspring fan.
No, those guys.
I
Suck.
mean, when I was in like 7th grade, we listened to the Offspring, the first album, like all the time.
You know who else I always hated, Joe? I'm not a big Green Day fan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Maybe the first album, like
Dookie.
I'll give
Everybody
you that.
liked Dookie.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
who doesn't like Dookie? I mean, come on.
I think it was American.
Like,
Idiot
Un-American.
that started to go out.
No, I'll give you
Yeah.
the first album, but that's it. Nothing after that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th horror podcast. That's at Friday 13.
I like that a lot.
FRIGA. Yeah, so that's why I'm throwing up some dap. Do you think Josh Hartnett has ever owned a comb? Poor Josh Hartnett's hair. I thought it was a delight, and I will defend Josh Hartnett's performance in this film. I really liked him.
He's so breathy. He's so just like, hey, girl.
I don't think his hair was that bad for a drug dealer.
Look at how pouty my lips are. Don't you want to kiss
horrible.
my lips?
And I mean, there's nothing that's attractive about him as an adult, but I'm just like, oh, apparently it was attractive in high school or adolescence. I don't know.
Next one comes to us from Craig at 4Color Craig. An ex once called me her Forrest Gump. What's the worst fictional character you've ever been compared to?
Listen, we talked about this last week. No more maligning the good name of Forrest Gump, okay?
Oh man. Well, he did post the a GIF of Forrest just saying, "I am not a smart man." So
when I shaved my head in high school, I was referred to as powder for close to a year. It was a tough one.
So
I actually did the same in college, so maybe that was
So my freshman year, I played football in high school. I was pretty thin because we were working out constantly and stuff like that. And my picture in the yearbook reflects that. Colleen and I, when we first started dating, she was going through my old yearbook from that, and she still swears to this day I look dead like Tackleberry.
Oh, that's not bad though.
No, you know what? I think you've said that and shown us that picture, and I think that's actually fairly accurate.
It was accurate,
Yeah.
Tackleberry.
CC, any fictional characters you would like to,
No, I was trying to think. Not that I know of. I mean, I had pictures drawn of me burning at the stake in high school. So I mean, I've always been called a witch, I guess.
When I was younger and I had more hair and it was longer, I definitely got some Bud Bundy comparisons.
Oh, jeez.
Which is not great. Not a great one to hear, but also like, all right, whatever.
I got a lot of Conan O'Brien in my later days.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Maybe in his later days, maybe.
Especially if you like grew your hair longer and like kind of combed it like that, I could see it.
Oh yeah, when I had longer hair and there was the swoop. Oh yeah.
That I could see.
He's a good-looking gentleman, though.
Tim W. at Womblet J. Is this the best Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake? Follow-up question: does Jordana Brewster elevate this movie to great? She's fine in the movie. I don't think she necessarily elevates it to great. I would put this up there with best body snatcher films. I meant to look up like the others in the kind of, in the mix, but
yeah, I can't think of any. So good.
Joe, do you have any pictures from 1998?
I'm sure.
I'd love to see that.
I texted my mom I asked if she had any pictures of me circa 1998 and she stopped responding. So I hope that means she's digging for one.
It would be so difficult. I wish I had thought of this before, but I would love to, like, every time we do go back to one of these years, to just have everybody's yearbook picture from that year. Like, I'm not even sure where mine are, but that would be amazing. Yeah.
Let's our buddy Library of Congress at Library of Congress, Thor's Hour of Thunder podcast. This is an interesting one. Let's see if anyone can come up with an answer. I had been too busy being scared by Robert Patrick in T2 and only noticed how hot he was literally 2 days ago from this photo of an unused costume for the film. And he posts a pretty attractive looking Robert Patrick
from this
photo.
era, he's pretty buff. He's got those steely eyes,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What actor or actress do you find attractive but are too scared by them in a certain role to be turned on by?
Huh.
Oh Jesus!
That's very specific.
Usually, the scarier they are, the more attractive they
That's
are.
what I was gonna say.
I mean,
I don't know that works that well for me.
Lilith Crane.
Yeah.
As an avid Cheers watcher when I was a kid, always had a BB Newirth thing before I knew that her name was actually BB Newirth. She was kind of having like a renaissance during this time period too, like getting cast in a ton of stuff.
Oh, you know what? Who? This is gonna sound insane. Dixie Carter on Designing Women. The the main. I think it was Dixie Carter. Whoever was like the main owner. She was so stern and frightening.
I do declare.
Oh no, that was.
Hang on, I'm gonna look this up.
Do you mean Delta Burke?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was Julia Sugarbaker.
Yeah.
Sugar
Yeah.
Baker?
Yeah, played by Dixie Carter. Yes.
Oh, there
Wow.
you go.
That isn't the same Dixie Carter that
Gerald McRaney's wife?
was running TNA wrestling, is it?
No.
I don't
I mean,
think
that's
so.
like a really specific name, don't you think?
I'm gonna send you guys a picture of Julia Sugarbaker.
So random.
I know, yeah. I had to look her up real quick. Okay, next one comes from Fiendcast, Fiendcast138. Not a question, just a statement. Forrest Gump is one of the greatest movies ever made, and yes, it still holds up. We're gonna move on because I won't be baited.
It's good.
By
It's
these
an
statements.
incredible, emotionally affecting movie, John, that
Ay, ay.
tells you a lot
Yep.
about the human condition.
Guys, all right, great. Russell Collins, last one. At Robot Claw. I think I hear about a new movie being, quote, the return of true hardcore horror every year. Is it possible that it never actually went away?
Yes. I don't know.
I mean, it's an interesting question. I guess he's referencing Terrifier, which I haven't seen, but I listened to your guys' episode on. The problem is, like, it like doesn't go away, but it doesn't like live in the mainstream either. So it really only kind of like surfaces every once in a while. I don't know. I'm curious. Like, I listened to the episode on Terrifier. Like, what's the last movie that you would even put in that same category? You know?
I don't know, Jim.
I have no idea, John.
Oh, all right, great. I'm glad.
I'll
you
be
guys
honest.
brought the
I don't
heat.
really even understand what question you're asking here.
No, he said the return of true hardcore horror. I guess
Oh.
he's referencing the Terrifier episode, but maybe
I
not.
don't know. I mean, we talked about it in the episode. Like, I can't remember a movie like that we've watched in a long time. So
Yeah. Well, that was sort of my point. It
So
never
good
went
talking.
away, but it does fade.
Oh, this has been a great episode.
Yes.
Does someone need to remind Eric to start the fade out music, or are we good?
Are you listening? I'm playing you.
All right,
I'm playing you out over here, John.
Mm.
Yeah. Cool.
John's been playing out for years.
Do it. I'll do it live.
Oh my god.
Bow, 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 bow.
Oh, no, that's sad. I didn't know Dixie Carter died.
There you go. Well, there's another one, and she runs TNA Wrestling. So there you go. Well, not anymore, actually.
Another
I think she got fired.
I don't know. Just replace her with this one.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks to everybody who wrote in. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Well, we're also on Twitter at BG Horror. Next week, finally back in the theater to review Hereditary. Getting lots of buzz, so looking forward to that.
Yay.
There you go. It's going to do it for this trip back to 1998. Hopefully, we'll be doing more in the future to review The Faculty. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.